Out of all the villains throughout comic book history, few end up becoming iconic. One character that definitely stands out from the rest is Venom. As far as villains go, he makes it in most people's top 50 list. He sits at number 22 on IGN's list of iconic villains. He's a symbiotic organism and requires a living host to survive. Attaching himself to a body, he quickly merges with an unsuspecting victim. Sound familiar? It should. We've seen this before in some of our favorite horror films. It's a trope that's been used for decades.
Beware of the blob, it creeps.
In 1958, the Blob was one of the earliest to use it, consuming people left and right. It was practically indestructible. Alien used the trope in 1979, making the human body a home for a creature that was hiding inside. But John Carpenter's The Thing in 1982 is what used the trope in a way that was most similar to Venom. The Thing would attach itself to a human host and fuse itself with their DNA, making it able to transform at any moment into its true form. But Venom's black liquid-like form always reminded me of the lake blob from Creepshow 2.
Get away from there, Rachel! Die!
Some of the shots look like they could be taken straight from a Venom film if it was shot in the 1980s. What sets Venom apart from all of these examples is that instead of replacing the host,
Can I talk to Dana?
There is no Dana, only Soul.
it does just the opposite by treating it as an equal while it lives inside.
They live inside me.
Inside yourselves, yes. And we are symbionts with them.
Symbionts?
Life forms living together for mutual advantage.
Venom's first appearance was in 1988, but fans really got to know him in the 90s. And the guy that designed his look also designed something that many of us are familiar with from the 90s, Spawn. He was created in 92 and got his own movie in 97. When you watch it, you can clearly see the influences of Venom. If they made a Venom movie back in the 90s, this is probably what it would have looked like. But we had to wait exactly 30 years later to finally see Venom get his own film. Spider-Man 3 doesn't count. In a time where Marvel Studios is making great entertainment, fans are hoping that Sony will finally give them Venom on the big screen that's accurate to the Venom on the page. But before I give my review of the new film, let's take a look at some of the history first.
Why don't we introduce you to our better half? We call ourselves Venom.
Venom essentially is an alien that was discovered in outer space by Spider-Man. But back in 1984, he was just known as the symbiote. I went looking for the comic that had its first appearance, and I finally found it in a local comic shop. The issue is Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, number 8. It tells the story of how Spider-Man got his new black costume. As the story goes in the comics, the heroes and villains of the Marvel Universe were transported to another planet called Battle World. After Spider-Man's costume is ruined from battle, he goes back to the hero base where there's a room with a machine that presents him with a black sphere. He takes it, and it spreads over his entire body, forming a new black and white costume. The alien costume stayed with Spider-Man after Secret Wars. The issue that announced it was going to be his new look was Amazing Spider-Man number 252. It was part of a story called Homecoming. Sound familiar? As a character, the alien symbiote requires a host to bond with for its survival. Once it bonds with a human host, it gives them enhanced powers and, as a new dual life form, refers to itself as Venom. The symbiote has had many hosts throughout the years. Spider-Man was the first, but Eddie Brock is the one who made Venom popular. Comic books might have been how most people got their first taste of Venom, but I first discovered him on TV. Spider-Man the Animated Series was where I got schooled on a lot of Marvel characters early on. The show was packed with characters from all over Marvel Comics, and Venom was the highlight of Season 1.
From now on, we're poison to you, Spider-Man. That's why we call ourselves Venom.
The artistic choices that the animated series made back in the 90s have been recreated in several films that came after.
Parker. Listen to me, Brock. You've got... Stop calling us that! We are Venom now!
Spider-Man 3 pulled several sequences from the show and put them up on the big screen. The animated series dropped the Secret Wars origin and exchanged it for a more grounded story. The symbiote still came from outer space, but it was picked up this time by astronauts instead.
What is that stuff? Get it off me!
And when Venom makes his return in Season 2, it's by meteor. A throwback that's paying homage to the Blob. Sam Raimi also used the meteor crash as a way to introduce the symbiote in Spider-Man 3. Against the director's will, Venom was added into Spider-Man 3 at the last minute, and unfortunately, it shows. The film suffered from having too many villains, and Topher Grace playing Eddie Brock was just poor casting.
Hey, Parker.
Venom's co-creator Todd McFarlane's big gripe with how Venom looked in the film was that he was too small. Did I mention he loves to scream? His only requirement that he had for the look of Venom in 2018 was that he needed to be big, which leads me to my thoughts on the new film.
We are Venom.
Oh,
What are you doing?
I'm putting my hands up.
Take him down.
Venom as a film doesn't share the same space as the other characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at least for now, but because Sony has high hopes that Venom will one day share the screen with Spider-Man, they recut the film to get a PG-13 rating. This gave the film a wider audience and made it more family-friendly, a tone that's consistent with all the other Marvel films, and when it gets down to it, it's all about money and setting up things for the future.
Eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time.
Tom Hardy plays Venom, taking on yet another role that covers his face. From Bane to Mad Max, it's just something we've come to expect. Before I saw the film, I read several mixed reviews, but I went in with an open mind. I really just wanted one thing. I wanted to see a film about Venom. And I'm happy to say, that's exactly what I got. And this time, he's comics accurate. We've already seen a film where Venom was forced and had to compete with two other villains, but going in, I asked myself, can a movie about Venom work without Spider-Man? Well, I can tell you the answer is yes. Venom works. In its opening weekend, Venom made $80 million domestic and over $200 million worldwide, setting a new opening record for October. People were definitely curious to see how Tom Hardy and Venom would play out on the big screen. Venom by no means is a great film. It has its issues, but it's a blast. Hands down, the best part of the film for me was just watching the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom.
We will eat both your arms and then both of your legs, and then we will eat your face right off your head.
What the hell are you?
We are Venom.
Overall, I give the film a B-. It's a fun time and worth seeing in theaters, but has some pacing issues and gets a little heavy-loaded near the end. But if you're a fan of Venom, or just an entertaining action movie, this is definitely a fun time. I hope you liked the review, and if you're a Spider-Man fan, check out my franchise review. I'll leave a link to that at the end. Leave your comments down below, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.